Good evening, Nelly. Hi, Nelly, how are you?
هاي مس هناء، how are you؟
الحمد لله. Fine.
عاملة إيه؟ أخباركم؟
الحمد لله. مبسوطة إنك معانا النهاردة.
أكيد أنا كمان والله.
يعني هاي مس نهى.
Hi, Miss Hannah. Good evening.
Good evening. هاي علياء. هاي علياء. Okay, we will wait just 2 minutes. I'll wait for more of our colleagues to join us. Hi, علياء. Okay, so let's start. Really happy to be with you again. Today, inshallah, we will have a new session. Is the voice okay?
Yes.
Okay, so can you see the screen?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so let's start. Today, inshallah, we will have a new session about ICQs and CCQs. Yeah, Alia, thank you. ICQs stands for instructions checking questions, and CCQs stands for concept checking questions. So from the title, I can guess that these questions help me as a teacher to check that my students understand what I'm saying or what I'm explaining. So the main aim of these questions is checking my students' understanding, or I check they got what I say or what I explain. So this is the title. So the session, it's all about kinds of questions. The first one is instructions, checking questions. what are the questions that the teacher can ask students to check that they understand the instructions, my instructions, okay? And the concept checking questions, the questions that the teacher can ask to check that students understand the vocabulary or the grammar that I teach. This is the title, ICQs and CCQs. Instructions checking questions and the concept checking questions. The main aim of such questions is checking understanding, okay? And we will talk about that in details, of course. Here I have a secret word, and I give you something like a key to know the secret word, okay? Here I have the alphabet, and each letter has a number. So letter A equals 1, letter B equals 2, and so on till letter Z equals 26. And here we have numbers. I'd like you to know the secret word. I have number 17, 21, 5, 19, 20, 9, 15, and 14. Can you guess what's the secret word here? If you don't want to use the mic, you can type in the chat box.
Question?
Yes, Miss Noha?
question والله مش كاملة.
Yes, it's
أنا جبت لغاية الآي بس مش كاملة لغاية 9. هي في كمالة ليها ولا إيه؟ sorry.
we have 15 and 14.
Question.
Yes, question. Thank you for you, Noha and Alia. I saw your answer, Alia, and you were faster. Okay, thank you, Alia, and thank you, Miss Noha. Yes, our secret word today is question, and this is what we talk about. We will talk about kinds of questions. As I said, when we read the title, ICQs, instruction checking questions, and CCQs, concept checking questions. So it's all about the questions, okay? And here I have a question for you. What's the question that you ask your students a lot? You can say that I ask my students this question a lot, many times during the class.
What can you see in this picture?
What can you see in this picture? Yes.
Yeah.
What else? I think we as teachers ask many questions in our classroom, but still we have a question that we ask a lot. As Ms. Noha said, what can you see in the picture? Yes. What else?
What's your name? What's your name every day?
Yes.
I ask
yes.
What's your name? Yeah.
Maybe in the very beginning of the class,
yeah.
we have new students.
How are you? How are you?
How are you? Yes. Every morning we ask them, how are you? Yes.
How are you?
Right. Yes. Yes. Every day we ask them, how are you? Yes. Thank you, Ms. Noha. And yes, what does that mean in Arabic? So it's my question, Alia, or the students? Yeah, I think you are asked these questions by students. Yes, students. Yes. Alia, in the chat box, send a question. What does that mean in Arabic? Yes, this is for the students. Yes, we are asked this question many times. Yes. Thank you, Alia, and thank you, Ms. Noha. Okay. When I say that we have a lot of questions that we ask our students, but still we have some questions that I can't ask my students. Some question as a good teacher, it's supposed not to ask my students. Can you give me any examples? I mean, there are some questions that it's not a good idea to ask them. Can you give me any questions, any examples of these questions?
Did you understand?
Did you understand? Hi, Raghda. You have just joined.
Hi.
Hi.
Yes.
Okay, so did you understand? Okay, what do you think of this question?
It's it has no end, or it has end. So students may say yes,
Yeah.
and they don't understand.
Yes, so you mean that it's a closed question. It's not an
Yes.
open question. Yeah. So student will say yes.
Yes.
Yes, exactly. So when I ask my
And
student,
it's not specific.
yes, that's right.
And it's not specific.
Yeah, it's general. Somehow it's general. Yes. So when of course, when I ask my students, do I understand? I supposed to expect just one answer, yes, and they nod like that, yes. So maybe some of them don't understand actually, and some of them may understand not all what I said, may understand some points, but the other points they don't understand. So an example of the question that the teacher shouldn't ask students, in fact, is, do you understand, or is it clear? Okay, or have you got it, or you got it? So because my students, especially the young learners, will say yes, and sometimes they don't understand the lesson completely or correctly, or they cannot understand the instructions completely or correctly. So it's not, I mean, it's not a good idea to ask my students, do you understand, or is it clear? So it's supposed to ask other kinds of questions. This is what we will talk today. We will talk about, this is our agenda. We will talk about other kinds of questions that we can ask, but we want to ask, do you understand, or is it clear? Here we will speak about ICQs. We will know what are they, how can I form them, and we will have some examples. And of course, we will talk about CCQs. We will know what are they, what are the difference between CCQs and eliciting questions, the types of CCQs, how to form them, when I explain vocabulary grammar, and we will have some example about vocabulary and about grammar, okay? So let's start step by step. We will talk about ICQs. And if you remember, ICQs stands for? Checking questions.
Checking questions.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Noah. So this is the first part of the session. We will talk about instruction, checking questions. Okay. Yes. Okay. Yeah. I give my instructions, of course, before any activity or before any task. So imagine that I have 5 activities in this lesson. So I'll give the instruction 5 times. So I'll give an instruction for each task or for each activity. I mean that the instruction comes before the task. So I have to explain the task for my students. So this is the instructions. When I explain the task for my students, what are they going to do? Or what, how will they work? Or what time should they have? So these are the instructions. Here I have a task, and these are the instructions of this task. In groups, read these words, then take the turns to write the correct word next to each opposite. You have 3 minutes to finish this task. Group A will start. And here, of course, we have the words young, small, difficult, and we have 3 questions, big, easy, and old. Here I have the task. What do you think about the instructions of this task? Do you think the instructions are clear? What do you think about the instructions of this task?
I think they are not clear.
Yes, Raghda, why?
Because she didn't tell them all the instructions, or she didn't tell them the instructions clearly.
Okay, how can you modify this instruction to make it clear? So here, if you read it again, the teacher told the students, how they work in groups, okay? And what will they do? They will write the word next to the opposite of the word. For example, big, they will write small next to it. Easy, they will write difficult. Old, they will write young, okay? And the teacher told them they have 3 minutes to finish the task, and he decided which group will start. So what do you think about such instructions?
I think that she must ask them to use the words, the 3 words, young, small, difficult, or they must match these words.
محمد قلت له مرتين قال لي ثانية.
Okay, Raghda, I can hear you. Go ahead. So you said that.
I think
Yes.
She must ask them to use the words
like
young, small, difficult. Or she must tell them that they have 3 words and their antonyms, and they must match the words.
Okay, so it's supposed to be more specific. Do you mean that?
Yes, yes, she must be more specific.
More specific to,
I think,
you mean
I'm not
that
sure.
mention the number of the words. Okay, Alia in the chat box said that.
In her instruction,
مسامعكم؟
Yes, Raghda, I can hear you.
okay, Miss Hana, my idea is just about that she didn't mention the word that the students are going to use.
Yeah, yes. It's supposed, yes, he didn't mention the word in the instructions. Yes, I got your point. So he didn't mention the words in the instructions. Yes, because it's supposed they are written. It's supposed to be an activity in the workbook or in a worksheet. So he didn't mention the words in the activity itself. So the student, for example, this is task number 2 on page 20, for example. And today, now you will do this task in groups. You will read these words and write the opposite next to these words. Yes, I got your idea. Yeah, that's right. So I think it's supposed to have this activity in a workbook or an worksheet.
I'm right or I'm wrong.
Yes, so yes, so students can see the words and the opposites. Alia in the chat box wrote, I think all the groups should start together. Yeah, okay. I think that group A will start. This is, the teacher preferred to start with group A because I think the other group will have another tasks. Okay, so at the same time, we have groups and each group will have a difficult task. So this is task for group A, for example, and B. After that, we will have another task to the other groups. Maybe the other groups will check the work of each other, okay? Okay, but what I mean here, the teacher, in fact, while saying the instruction, asked the students how to work. How do the students work here? How are they going to work here? I'm talking about these instructions, okay? So how will the student, how are they going to work? Individually or in pairs or in groups? What do you think?
In groups.
In groups.
In groups.
Right. How much time will they have?
3 minutes.
3 minutes, that's right. And what will they do?
They will read the words, then take turns to write the correct word next to each opposite.
Yes, the opposite. That's right, Alia. They will work in groups and they have 3 minutes. And as you said, Raghda, they will write the correct word next to the opposite. And they have 3 words. Yes. Yes, that's right. Okay. So these kinds of questions that the teacher asks after giving the instruction are ICQ, instruction checking questions. So here the teacher, after giving the instruction, will ask students, Are you going to work in groups or in pairs? Imagine that you are the students, okay? And I give you this task and this is instructions. And now I'll ask you some instruction checking questions and try to answer me, okay? So now my students, how will you work? Are you going to work in groups or in pairs?
In groups.
In groups, yes. Question 2, how much time will you have to answer?
3 minutes.
3 minutes, that's right. What will you do? Will you write the opposite or the meaning of the words?
They will write the opposite.
The opposite, that's right. So what I do now is checking and understanding of the instruction. So I ask some, yes, I ask, yes, yes, Raghda.
Okay.
Yeah.
No,
So, yeah, if you have any questions, you can ask.
No.
Okay,
No.
so here I asked 3 questions. How are you going to work in groups or in pairs? Number 2, how much time will you have? And what will you do? Will you match, for example, will you write the opposite? Will you write the meaning of the word? So here I'm asking my student to check their understanding of the instruction that I have just given. Okay, so this is what I mean by ICQs, instruction checking the question. Okay, so let's have a look at the meaning here. So are you going to work in pairs or in groups? Are you going to read the words only or match them with the opposite? How much time do you have? Who is going to start? So these kind of questions are called instruction checking questions. The questions that the teacher asks after giving instructions to the students. To check that they understand the instruction, okay? And once they understand the instruction, they will do the task or the activity easily. They will do it correctly and completely, okay? So the main aim of instruction checking questions, the teacher check that the students understand the instructions completely and correctly, okay? To avoid any kind of misunderstanding. This is what I mean by instruction checking. I'm so sorry, Asma, I muted you. Okay, so this is the definition of ICQs. They stand for instruction checking questions, because not all of the learners can understand the instructions at once, even if we repeat it, okay? Miss Noha, I'm so sorry again because I muted you because we have, I think someone is speaking next to you, okay? So again, ICQs, I ask such questions after giving instructions to check that all my students understand the instructions completely and correctly. Because once I ask my students, do you understand? They will say, yes. Sometimes, in fact, they don't understand the instruction. Maybe some of them don't understand all the instructions, and maybe he didn't get what exactly I have to do in this task. And after that, I can hear my students say, يا مس هنعمل إيه هنا? Okay? And in fact, sometimes I give the instruction and I check them, but still some students can't get the instruction. I have to repeat them and repeat the ICQs to make sure that my students got them, understand them, and after that, of course, they can do the task or the activity easily and correctly, okay? So again, ICQs, I give these questions before instructions or after instructions?
after instruction.
Of course, after instruction to check their understanding, okay? It's supposed to ask how will they work, how much time will they have, and what they do, the task itself. I'll ask them, will you listen and write, or will you listen and read? Will you listen and match, for example, okay? Okay. How can I form ICQs? It's supposed to use simple language to be easy for students, okay? Number two, I ask short questions, okay? Don't ask questions so long questions, okay? Because students want to pay attention for you. Another one, I have to ask a question that requires short answers. For example, are you going to work in groups or in pairs? They will say in groups. So just 2 words or 3 words, the answer is really short, okay? I ask just 3 or up to 5 questions. And what I'm asking about is the pattern. How will they work? Are you going to work in groups, in pairs, or individually? This is number 1, the pattern. Number 2, I'll ask about the task itself. So will you write while listening or not? So yes, miss, we will write while listening. No, miss, we won't write, okay? We don't write while listening, for example. And the time given, how much time will you have? They will say 3 minutes, 5 minutes, according to the task, okay? So here, how to form ICQs, supposed to be simple, easy language, short questions. The answer supposed to be short, not many questions. 3 or 4, 5 questions, and of course I'll ask about the pattern, how will they work, the task itself, and the time that's supposed to finish this task. Okay, so this is how to form ICQs. Okay. Now I'll give you an instructions to an activity, and tell me, are these instructions good or bad? Okay, so we have instructions for a task and the ICQs, instruction checking questions. You will tell me, what do you think about these questions? Okay, so let me read the instructions. So we have a task. This is the teacher instructions. Working groups, you have 3 minutes. Make phrases with a little or a few, and the word is blah. Group B will start. We have water, days, milk, friends, and books. Okay, so these are the instructions, and the teacher wants to check that the students understand the instructions. Okay, so he asked the following questions. What are you going to do? Are you going to form phrases based on the provided words along with a little or a few? Or will you make up phrases from your own mind? Are you going to answer or sleep? What do you think about these instructions, checking questions? Do you think they are good or bad?
They are not appropriate.
Sorry, Rahda?
They are not appropriate. I think they are bad questions.
They are bad questions. Okay, can you explain that for us? For example,
Okay, the first question is not specific because he asked them, what are you going to do? So this is not specific.
Yeah, you mean general? Yes.
Yes, general question. Okay, number 2, it's too long a question.
Yes. Yeah, that's right.
Very long.
Yeah.
The last one is a silly question.
Yes, in fact, yes. It's a silly question, yes. Because, yeah, it's not logic to ask my students, are you going to answer or sleep? It's not a good instruction, checking questions, in fact. So I totally agree with you, Rahda. Number 1, what are you going to do is very general questions. It's not specific. So I can ask, are you going to make sentences or phrases? So this is what I wanted to ask about the task itself, okay? What will you use to make phrases? Little or a few or much or many? So they will say little or few, or they will say we will make phrases, not sentences. So it's not a good idea to ask very general questions supposed to be specific. I'm talking about the task itself in a specific questions, okay? And number two, yes, Raghda, as you said, it's a very long question. And I think it has some difficult words like the word provided. So it's not simple, in fact. It can be more simple than that. So are you going to use these 5 words or words on your own? So students will say we will use just these words, okay?
Yes.
Okay. Number 3, are you going to answer or sleep? Of course not. It's not a good idea to ask this question. Yes, I can
Silly
ask
question.
about the time. How much time will you have, for example?
Yeah.
How will you work? Are you going to work in groups or in pairs or individually? Okay. So it's not a good idea to ask general questions or long questions. It's not a good idea to ask questions that is not related to the instructions. It's supposed to ask about 3 things in the instructions. Can you remember them? It's supposed to ask
Again.
about, yes.
What time? How
Time?
students will do? What are they do?
Yes, that's right. So how much time they will have and how will they work in groups, in person, individually, or in teams, okay? And I'll ask about the task, but to be specific. So it's not a good idea to ask, what are you going to do? No, it's supposed to say, will you match, for example, or write words? Okay, will you listen and write the answer of the questions or just listen, not to write? Okay, so this is for instruction checking question, the question that I ask as a teacher after giving my students certain instructions to check that they got the instructions, they understand the instructions. Okay, okay. This is the first part of our session today. So let's wrap up. Who can tell me what are ICQs? What do they stand for?
Instructions checking the questions.
Yes, that's right. Instruction checking question. Yes.
A question to check the they are a question to checking the understanding of the students.
Yes, and I ask students such questions after giving instructions for task or activity.
Questions that are asked after the students have a task or after I give the students a task.
Yes, that's right. So how to form them?
Yes, we must use yes or no questions.
Yes.
We mustn't use long questions, and we must use specific questions.
Yes, it's supposed to have a question about the task itself. It's supposed to be specific. And yes, it's a good idea to ask yes, no question, Raghda, but it's okay to ask WH question, but the answer should be short, okay? So the answer, for example, how are you going to work? It's yes, it's sorry, WH question, but it's okay. The answer is short. So in pairs, in teams, okay? Yes, that's as you said, Raghda, it's supposed to be specific. I'm asking about the task itself. Yes. Okay. So this is the first part of ICQs, instruction checking questions. Okay. If you have any questions about this part, or if you have any comment, if you want to discuss something in this part, you can, if you don't want to use the mic, you can type in the chat box. So again, if you have any questions about instruction checking questions, we can discuss that together. before moving to CCQs?
Again, Miss Hannah, please.
Okay, this is the first part of the session, Raghda. It's all about ICQs. What are they, how to form them, and what it's supposed to ask my students about after giving my instruction. Here I'm asking if you have any questions about this part, we can discuss that together. And if you don't want, if you don't want to use the mic, you can use the chat box. Yes, Miss Noha, I muted you because I think someone is speaking next to you. I'm so sorry for that.
This is my son.
Yes. Okay, so I'm so sorry for that. علياء النت وحش، معلش دي تعودنا على النت كده. Okay, so again, if yes, Ram, if you have any questions about the ICQs, if you have any comments on this part.
I think you made it very clear. I keep it by my heart.
Okay, okay. So let's move. Okay, we still have 4 minutes in the first session. Okay, let's move to CCQs. Okay, and in the second part of this session, we will know what are CCQs and the difference between CCQs and eliciting questions. Okay, so let's start. Here I have a picture. Okay, can you look at the picture and tell me what can you see in the picture?
Nuts.
Yes, nuts.
Oh.
Yes. What else?
Okay.
Chips.
Yes, we have chips, we have nuts, yes. Yeah, so what do we call this in English? When I say I have some chips to eat, I have some nuts to eat.
Snacks.
Snack, yes, that's right.
Snack.
Yes, that's right. So what I'm doing here, in fact, I elicit the word snack from you. Okay, yes. So yeah, that's right, eliciting, yes. So me as a teacher, I didn't say the word snack. So who said the word snack? The students, my students. So I show them a picture and ask some questions about this picture. As you said, Miss Noha, the question that you always ask, what can you see in the picture? What can we call this in English? So one of my students said a snack. So here I check that my students may know this word, and yes, my students could answer the question. So here what I'm doing that now is eliciting. I eliciting the vocab or the item of language that I want to check that my students know. So this is eliciting. Okay. Okay. Now we will have the same picture but with different questions. Okay. Okay. Look at the question of the snack again. So we know that this is a snack. We have different kinds of questions. When I ask you about the snack, is it a small amount or big amount of food?
Big.
I'm talking about the snack, not the picture. The word snack. When I say I have a snack, so is it big or a small amount of food?
No, small.
Small, yes. Okay. When is it eaten?
Before the meals.
Yeah, that's right. Or between the meals. Yes. Okay. And what's your favorite snack?
Fruits.
Fruits. Okay. Who else? What's your favorite snack?
Desserts.
Yes, desserts. Chips, as Alia said. Yes, Alia.
Nuts.
Yeah, nuts. That's right. Yes. Okay. So yes, it's a small amount, as you said, Raghda and Alia. Yes, Fatma, nuts. It's her favorite snack, and it's eaten between meals. So
yeah.
Yes. So the first step, I elicit the word snack. So this is eliciting questions. After that, I ask it about the word itself. So these kinds of questions are concept checking questions. So again, after eliciting the vocabulary or the language that I want my student to say, I ask them these questions to check that they got understand the word snack. So when I ask my students, is it small or big? They will say small. When is it eaten between meals? What's your favorite snack? And I find them, they said nuts, chips, fruits, dessert. So now